I'm Emily, a 32-year-old accountant from Chicago, and this is the story of how my own family tried to rob me blind. What should have been a milestone, my 30th birthday, turned into a gut punch when my mom and aunt tried to swipe the $300,000 inheritance my grandma left me. They thought they had me fooled, saying it was for family needs, but I'd laid a trap to catch their greed red-handed. If this sounds like a story you need to hear, hit that like button, drop a comment with where you're watching from, and subscribe. Trust me, the twists are worth it. Growing up on Chicago's South Side, in a brick bungalow squeezed between a corner store and a laundromat, I learned early that life wasn't fair. Our family was solid middle class. Mom worked as a school secretary. Dad was a mechanic until he passed when I was 10. But there was always a pecking order. My cousin Mia, Aunt Karen's daughter, was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. Me? I was the responsible one, the one who had to figure things out on my own. Mia's dance recitals were family events, with Mom and Aunt Karen cheering like she'd won the Olympics. My straight-A report cards? They'd get a quick "nice job, Em," before the conversation turned back to Mia's latest hobby. I'll never forget my high school math scholarship ceremony. I was 16, clutching my certificate, scanning the crowd for Mom. She didn't show. Mia had a stomach ache, and that was that. Meanwhile, when Mia got a participation ribbon for a dance camp she barely attended, Aunt Karen framed it and hung it in their living room. It wasn't just favoritism. It was like I was invisible unless I was useful. The one person who saw me was Grandma Grace. She'd pull me aside during family barbecues, her silver hair catching the sunlight, and slip me a $20 bill with a wink. "Money buys freedom, Emily," she'd say, her voice low, like it was our secret. She'd been through her own battles. Her brothers tried to swindle her out of her savings when she was young, and she never forgot it. "Don't let anyone take what's yours," she told me once, handing me a small silver locket she'd worn for decades. I kept it in my pocket for years, a reminder of her strength. By 16, I was hooked on numbers. While other kids blew their allowance on sneakers or video games, I opened a savings account at the local credit union. I babysat for neighbors, tutored younger kids in math, and tracked every cent in a password-protected spreadsheet on my clunky old laptop. Mia would tease me, calling me Scrooge, while she spent her birthday cash on nail salon visits. "You're so boring, Em," she'd say, flipping her hair. I'd just smile and think of Grandma's words. Freedom. College was where the gap widened. I got into DePaul University with a partial scholarship and worked 20 hours a week at a CPA firm downtown to cover the rest. I'd take the L train home at midnight, exhausted but proud, knowing every dollar was mine. Mia, meanwhile, flunked out of community college after one semester, claiming it stifled her creativity. Aunt Karen and Mom paid for her to find herself on a 6-month trip to Italy. When she came back with nothing but Instagram posts and credit card debt, they bought her a used SUV to cheer her up. I was still driving my beat-up Honda Civic, scraping by on instant noodles to save for my future. The real kicker came when I was 25. Grandma Grace passed away, leaving me $300,000 to start a scholarship fund in her name for girls from the South Side. It was her dream, and I swore I'd make it real. I was still grieving when I checked my savings account, One Mom and I had opened when I was 18 for emergencies. It was a joint account, a holdover from when Dad died, and I'd never thought much about it. But $10,000 was gone. When I confronted Mom, she shrugged it off, sipping coffee at her kitchen table. "Mia was in a bind with her car loan, Em. We'll pay it back. You're so good with money, you'll figure it out." I pressed her, my voice shaking. "That was my money, Mom, from my job." She just sighed. "Family helps family, Emily. Mia needs more support than you." That moment hit like a freight train. It wasn't just about the money. It was the assumption that my hard work was theirs to take. I saw Grandma's locket on my dresser that night and made a promise. I'd build a life where no one could touch what I'd earned. I didn't know then that this decision would lead to the biggest betrayal of my life, or that I'd turn it into a victory they'd never see coming. By my late 20s, I was killing it at the CPA firm. I'd climbed to senior accountant, managing portfolios for high-net-worth clients in the Loop. My bonuses were solid, and I saved like my life depended on it. $150,000 on top of Grandma's inheritance, split between a stock portfolio, bonds, and a small real estate fund. I lived in a one-bedroom in Logan Square, nothing fancy, and still drove that same Honda. My coworkers were buying condos in Wicker Park or jetting off to Cancun. I was brown-bagging lunches and maxing out my 401k. Every dollar was a brick in the wall I was building around my future. Mia, on the other hand, was a revolving door of bad decisions. She tried being a yoga instructor, quit because the hours were too early. She started a fashion blog, then abandoned it when she didn't go viral. Each flop came with a bailout from Mom and Aunt Karen, rent for her River North loft, payments on her SUV, even cash for her self-care spa days. "Mia's a free spirit," Mom would say during our monthly calls, her voice dripping with excuses. "Not everyone's cut out for the grind like you, Em." The double standard was like a splinter under my skin, but I kept my head down and my spreadsheets tight. That joint account with Mom started to nag at me. She'd insisted on it years ago, saying it was for family security. I'd agreed, young and trusting, but kept most of my money in separate accounts. Small amounts flowed into the joint one, birthday gifts, holiday contributions, but I tracked every transaction like a hawk. Mom's questions about my finances got sharper over time. "How's that fancy job treating you?" she'd ask, too casual. "You must have a nice nest egg by now." Aunt Karen chimed in at family dinners, her eyes gleaming. "You're not blowing all that money, are you, Em? Family should look out for each other." The first red flag hit at a 4th of July barbecue. I'd stepped onto the back porch for some air, the smell of grilled burgers thick in the humid air. Through the kitchen window, I heard Mom and Aunt Karen whispering. "Emily's inheritance has to be growing," Mom said, her voice low. "She's so secretive, but it could fix Mia's debts." Aunt Karen nodded. "We just need to frame it as a family thing. She's practical. She'll get it." My stomach churned. They weren't talking about asking me. They were planning to take it. I gripped the porch railing, the summer heat suddenly suffocating. A month later, Aunt Karen pulled me aside at a family brunch. "We're a bit strapped, Em," she said, stirring her mimosa. "Could you spot us $20,000, just for a bit, until Mia's on her feet?" I hesitated, my mind racing. "How much is a bit?" I asked. "Oh, just a month or two," she said, waving it off. I agreed to $5,000, but only with a signed IOU. She rolled her eyes. Family doesn't need paperwork, but signed it. 6 months later, not a dime was repaid. I wrote it off, but the betrayal stung. Then Mia announced her engagement to some guy she'd met 3 months ago. The wedding plans were straight out of a magazine, a $100,000 blowout on a Lake Michigan yacht. Over dinner, Mom cleared her throat. "It's a big expense, but family resources should cover it," she said, her eyes flicking to me. I forced a smile, my fork froze in midair. That's when I knew something was up. The final straw came when I got back from a work trip to St. Louis. My apartment felt off, books on my desk slightly shifted, a drawer not quite closed. I checked my laptop. The browser history showed searches for my bank's login page, time-stamped when I was 500 miles away. Mom had a spare key for emergencies. I'd trusted her like an idiot. Heart pounding, I installed a motion-activated camera in my office nook. A week later, it caught Mom and Aunt Karen rifling through my files, snapping photos of bank statements with their phones. I sat on my couch, watching the footage, feeling like the ground had dropped out from under me. I called Rachel, my best friend from the firm, spilling everything over coffee at a diner. That's not normal," she said, pushing her glasses up. "You need to check your accounts. Now." I pulled up my banking app on my phone, hands shaking. The joint account was untouched, but the violation burned. Rachel leaned in. "You need a lawyer, and maybe a plan." That night, staring at Grandma's locket, I made a decision. I wasn't just going to protect my money, I was going to catch them in the act. My suspicions were like a low hum in the back of my mind, growing louder with every passing week. Mom and Aunt Karen's questions about my money weren't just nosy anymore. They felt like a setup. It was late summer, the Chicago air thick with humidity, and Mia's engagement announcement had just dropped like a bombshell at a family dinner. We were at Mom's house, the same brick bungalow where I grew up, now cluttered with Mia's wedding magazines. She was beaming, showing off a ring that probably cost more than my car. "It's going to be on a yacht on Lake Michigan," she said, tossing her hair. $100,000, but it'll be the event of the year." I forced a smile, my spaghetti untouched, as Mom and Aunt Karen gushed. "That's our girl," Aunt Karen said, squeezing Mia's hand. Then Mom's eyes slid to me. "It's a big expense, Emily. Family pulls together for things like this." My stomach twisted. They weren't just hinting, they were circling. I started noticing their questions more. At every family gathering, Mom would slip in a casual probe. "How's your portfolio doing, Em? Those stocks must be raking it in." Aunt Karen was worse. Her real estate agent charm dialed up. "You're sitting on a fortune, aren't you? Smart girl like you, I bet you've got $500,000 tucked away." I'd laugh it off, change the subject, but it was like they were mapping my finances. The joint account, the one Mom insisted we keep for emergencies, felt like a ticking time bomb. I checked it daily, my spreadsheet tracking every cent. So far, nothing new, but I wasn't taking chances. The first big move came at a Sunday brunch at Mom's. She'd gone all out, mimosas, a spread of pancakes and bacon, the works. It felt off, like she was buttering me up. Halfway through, she leaned in, her voice soft. "Emily, we've been thinking about family. You've done so well, and we're so proud. But Mia's struggling. The wedding, her debts, it's a lot." She paused, eyes misty. "Remember when you were kids and you shared your Halloween candy with her? You've always been the generous one." My fork froze. This wasn't a memory lane stroll. It was a guilt trip. Aunt Karen jumped in, all smiles. "Maybe you could chip in just a little. Family takes care of family." I mumbled something vague, my mind screaming they were laying it on thick and I wasn't buying it. That night, I replayed the conversation in my head, pacing my Logan Square apartment. The overhead fan buzzed, matching the buzz in my chest. I pulled out Grandma's locket, running my thumb over its worn silver. She'd warned me about people who'd see my success as their piggy bank. I opened my laptop and checked the security footage from the camera I'd installed after finding my desk tampered with. Nothing new, but I wasn't reassured. I called Rachel, my best friend from the CPA firm, and spilled everything over FaceTime. Her glasses fogged up as she sipped tea, her face serious. This isn't just weird, it's sketchy. You need to lock down your accounts and get a lawyer, like yesterday." She was right. I started recording every call with Mom, just in case. A week later, Mia texted me out of the blue. "Hey, Em, let's grab coffee. I've got a biz idea you'll love." I met her at a hipster cafe in Wicker Park, all exposed brick and overpriced lattes. She was in designer jeans, her nails freshly done, and launched into a pitch about opening a boutique coffee shop in River North. "It's a sure thing," she said, sliding a glossy brochure across the table. "I just need a partner, 50 grand from you, and we're golden." I raised an eyebrow. 50 grand? That's a big ask, Mia. She laughed, too bright. "Come on, you're loaded. It's family, right?" I said I'd think about it, but my gut was yelling. This wasn't a business plan. It was a cash grab. I snapped a photo of the brochure when she went to the bathroom. The numbers didn't add up. The next day, I got a call from Mom. "Did you talk to Mia about her coffee shop? It's her big break, Em." Her voice had that same syrupy tone from brunch. I played along, keeping my answers vague. "I'm looking at it, Mom. Just need to crunch some numbers." When I hung up, I checked my laptop's browser history. There it was, searches for my bank's login page, time-stamped from when Mom had stopped by to borrow a book while I was at work. My heart pounded as I pulled up the security footage. There they were, Mom and Aunt Karen, in my apartment, flipping through my desk drawers, snapping photos of a bank statement I'd left out. Mom even tried logging into my laptop, her face lit by the screen's glow. I sat back, my coffee cold. This wasn't just suspicion anymore, it was war. I needed help, and fast. Rachel connected me with David Miller, an estate attorney she'd met at a networking event. We met at a quiet diner downtown, the kind with sticky booths and bottomless coffee. David, a middle-aged guy with a no-nonsense vibe, listened as I laid out everything: the joint account, the missing $10,000, the footage. "Family financial exploitation is more common than you think," he said, scribbling notes. That joint account is a vulnerability. They can legally drain it, no questions asked. My stomach dropped. What do I do? I asked. He leaned forward. Protect your real assets first. Then, if you want to catch them, set a trap, a decoy account, fake statements. Make them think they're winning. His words lit a spark, a trap. I could do that. The next weekend, I signed up for a financial planning workshop in the Loop, hoping to learn more about protecting my money. The room was packed with young professionals, all jotting notes as a speaker droned on about trusts. During a break, I struck up a conversation with a guy named David, not my lawyer, but a financial advisor who specialized in wealth protection. He was sharp, with a quick laugh, and when I mentioned my situation in vague terms, he didn't miss a beat. "Sounds like you need a honey pot," he said, sipping a coffee. "Put some bait in a place they can find, but keep your real money locked down tight. I can connect you with someone for the tech side." He gave me the number for Sarah Kim, a cybersecurity expert who'd help clients catch fraudsters. Back home, I started laying the groundwork. I called Mom, keeping my tone light. "Hey, I'm thinking about moving some money around soon. Maybe consolidating for a big investment." Her response was too eager. "That's smart, Em. Tell me more. What kind of investment?" I dodged, saying I was still figuring it out, but I could hear the gears turning in her head. At a family barbecue the next week, I overheard Mom talking to Uncle Tom, a distant cousin who'd always been neutral in our family drama. "Emily's got so much saved up," she said, her voice low. "It could really help Mia's wedding." Tom frowned. "You sure she's okay with that?" Mom waved him off. "She's family. She'll come around." Tom's hesitation stuck with me. He wasn't fully on board, and that gave me an idea. Maybe he could be an ally. The final blow came when I checked my camera footage after a long day at work. Mom and Aunt Karen were back in my apartment, this time with a guy I didn't recognize. He was in a cheap suit, scrolling through my laptop while Mom pointed at the screen. My blood ran cold. I zoomed in on the footage. He was searching for my bank's wire transfer protocols. I called Rachel, my voice shaking. "They're not just snooping anymore. They've got someone helping them." She didn't hesitate. "Em, this is serious. You need to move fast." I hung up, my mind racing. Whoever this guy was, he was no amateur. Mom and Aunt Karen weren't just greedy. They were desperate, and they'd hired a pro to crack my accounts. It was time to set the trap before they got any closer. The game was on, and I was done playing nice. Mom and Aunt Karen had crossed every line, and now I had proof. Camera footage of them sneaking through my apartment, a shady guy in a suit poking around my laptop. My heart was still racing from that last discovery, but I wasn't about to let them win. It was time to build a trap so tight they'd never see it coming. I was sitting in my Logan Square apartment, the city's hum filtering through my window, staring at Grandma's locket. Her words echoed, "Don't let anyone take what's yours." I was ready to fight back, and I wasn't doing it alone. First, I needed a team. Rachel, my best friend from the CPA firm, had already pushed me to get serious, and she came through with a recommendation. Lisa Tran, a forensic accountant who'd sniffed out fraud for some of Chicago's biggest firms. We met at a coffee shop in the Loop, the kind with baristas yelling orders over espresso machines. Lisa was sharp, her dark hair pulled back, her notepad already open. I showed her the footage, the browser history, everything. "This is textbook," she said, tapping her pen. "Family exploitation usually starts small, borrowing, guilt-tripping, then escalates. Your joint account's a gold mine for them." She laid out a plan. "Move my real money, $300,000 from Grandma's inheritance and $150,000 from my savings into secure structures they couldn't touch. Think trusts, LLCs, accounts at banks they've never heard of," she said. I nodded, my coffee untouched. "And what about catching them?" Lisa's eyes gleamed. "We set a decoy, a fake account with just enough to tempt them." Next, I met David Miller, the estate attorney Rachel had connected me with. His office was a sleek corner suite downtown, all glass and steel. He reviewed my evidence, his brow furrowing. "Legally, they can drain that joint account without your permission," he said, leaning back in his chair. "We need to lock down your assets, yesterday." He suggested an irrevocable trust for the inheritance, with me as the sole beneficiary, and 2 LLCs in different states for my savings. "It's like building a fortress," he said. "Even if they find one account, they can't get through the layers." I felt a flicker of relief, but my mind was already on the trap. "I want them to show their hand," I told him. David raised an eyebrow but nodded. "Then we make the bait irresistible." The tech side came from Sarah Kim, the cybersecurity expert David, the financial advisor from the workshop, had recommended. We met at a dive bar in Wicker Park, neon signs buzzing overhead. Sarah was younger than I'd expected, with a quick wit and a laptop covered in stickers. "You want a honeypot," she said, cutting straight to it. "We'll make a fake account look like your main stash. Fake statements, email alerts, the works. They'll think they've hit the jackpot." She showed me how to plant digital breadcrumbs, bogus financial planning docs on my laptop, a saved password for the decoy account. "The trick is making it look easy," she said, grinning. "They'll jump at it." By the end of the week, my $450,000 was safe in a trust, and 2 LLCs at banks in Wisconsin and Indiana. The joint account? I loaded it with $50,000 from a side savings account, just enough to look tempting. Sarah set up alerts to ping my phone if anyone accessed it. The trap was set. Meanwhile, Mom and Aunt Karen were turning up the heat. It started with a phone call from Mom, her voice shaky. "Emily, it's Mia. She's not well, something with her lungs. The bills are piling up." My heart skipped, but something felt off. Mia had been posting selfies from a spa day on Instagram that morning. "What kind of bills?" I asked, keeping my tone soft. "Oh, tests, specialists. It's a lot," Mom said, dodging. "Could you help out? Maybe $10,000 just to tide us over?" I hesitated, my mind racing. This was a test. "Sure, Mom," I said, forcing concern. "I'll transfer it tomorrow." I recorded the call, my finger hovering over the stop button. The next day, I sent $10,000 from a small side account, not the joint one, and set up a second alert to track where it went. Sure enough, the money hit Aunt Karen's account, and a week later, Mia posted about a new designer dress for her wedding. Lung problems, my ass. I upped the ante at a family dinner at Mom's. The table was set with her best china, like she was trying to impress me. Mia was there, gushing about her yacht wedding, while Uncle Tom, the quiet cousin who'd raised an eyebrow at the barbecue, picked at his food. I waited for the right moment, then dropped my bait. "I'm thinking about a big financial move after my birthday," I said casually, cutting my chicken, consolidating my accounts, maybe putting everything into one place for the scholarship fund. Mom's fork paused midair. "Everything?" she asked, too eager. "Like all your savings?" I nodded, keeping my eyes on my plate. "Yeah, it's a lot to manage. Might streamline it into the joint account for a bit." Aunt Karen's smile was practically predatory. "That's smart, Em. Keep it simple." I excused myself to the bathroom, leaving my laptop open on the counter with a fake bank statement showing $300,000 in the joint account. My smartwatch buzzed with the camera feed. Mom was at my laptop, snapping photos with her phone, whispering to Aunt Karen, "Gotcha." The next day, I hired a private investigator through David's contacts. His name was Mike, a grizzled guy who looked like he'd seen every scam in the book. "I'll tail them," he said over a call, his voice gravelly. "Banks, meetings, whatever they're up to." 2 days later, he emailed me a report. Mom and Aunt Karen had visited 3 banks in one morning, asking about large transfers and withdrawal limits. One teller even noted Mom mentioning my daughter's account and a family emergency. Mike's photos showed them leaving a Wells Fargo with a guy in a cheap suit, the same one from my apartment footage. My pulse quickened. They weren't just planning, they were moving fast. I called Uncle Tom, testing the waters. We met at a diner near his auto shop, the smell of fried eggs thick in the air. "I heard Mom talking about my money," I said, stirring my coffee. "You know anything?" Tom sighed, rubbing his neck. "They tried to pull me into it years ago, Em. Wanted me to invest in one of Mia's schemes. I said no, and they froze me out." His voice was heavy, like he'd carried that weight for years. "Be careful. They're not who you think." His words sealed it. Mom and Aunt Karen had a history, and I wasn't their first target. It made me more determined to nail them. The psychological game was in full swing. Mom called again, her voice dripping with fake concern. "Mia's tests came back. She needs more treatment," she said. I leaned into it, playing the worried daughter. "That's awful, Mom. How much do you need now?" She hesitated, then said, "Maybe another $20,000. I recorded every word, then replied, "I'll see what I can do after my birthday. I'm moving some money around anyway." I could practically hear her salivate. Sarah had set up a fake email alert that pinged my laptop, showing a deposit of $100,000 into the joint account. I left it open during Mom's next visit, and the camera caught her forwarding it to Aunt Karen. The bait was working. Then came the gut punch. I got a notification late one night. $5,000 had been withdrawn from the joint account. My heart sank. Had I miscalculated? I called Lisa in a panic, my voice shaking. "They took $5,000. Did I screw this up?" She was calm, almost amused. "Check the transfer details." I did, and my breath caught. It went to Aunt Karen's account, tagged as a test transfer. Lisa laughed. "They're dipping their toes, Em. They think they're slick, but you've got them." I leaned back on my couch, adrenaline fading. This wasn't a failure. It was proof they'd bite. My trap was ready, and my 30th birthday was just around the corner. They had no idea what was coming. My 30th birthday was supposed to be a milestone, a day to celebrate everything I'd built. Instead, it became the stage for the biggest betrayal of my life, and the moment I'd turn the tables. The Chicago sun was high that June Saturday, casting a golden glow over Mom's South Side bungalow. I pulled up at noon, dressed in a simple sundress, my makeup light to play the part of the unsuspecting daughter. My stomach churned, but I clutched Grandma's locket in my pocket for strength. The trap was set. $50,000 in the joint account, fake statements on my laptop, alerts ready to ping my phone. Mom and Aunt Karen thought they were slick, but I was about to catch them red-handed. The house was decked out like a Pinterest board gone wild. Balloons, a glittery Happy 30th banner, a cake with too much frosting. It screamed effort, but it felt hollow, like a stage set for a con. Mom greeted me at the door, her hug too tight, her perfume overpowering. "You look beautiful, Em," she said, her smile not reaching her eyes. "We wanted this to be special." Aunt Karen was already pouring wine, her real estate agent charm dialed to 11. "Our girl's all grown up," she chirped, raising a glass. I forced a laugh, scanning the room. A few cousins, some neighbors, and Uncle Tom, who gave me a quiet nod from the corner. Then Mia swept in, fashionably late, her designer dress screaming money I knew she didn't have. Her fiancé, Jake, trailed behind, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Happy birthday, Em," Mia said, air-kissing my cheeks. Her diamond earrings caught the light, and I wondered whose credit card had paid for them. I played my role, smiling, thanking everyone, but I kept my wits sharp. I sipped water from a wine glass, needing a clear head. The guests mingled, oblivious to the undercurrent, their chatter a perfect cover for Mom's scheme. Around 3 p.m., I set the bait. My phone buzzed. A fake alert Sarah had programmed. I pulled it out, loud enough for Mom to hear. "Oh, my investment fund just hit a milestone," I said, faking excitement. "The one I mentioned, Mom. Big returns." Her eyes snapped to me like a shark smelling blood. "That's amazing, honey," she said, too smooth. "What's the number?" I shrugged, casual. "Enough to rethink my portfolio. I might need to check it quick." Aunt Karen jumped in. "Use the study, Em. Take your time." I walked to Mom's study, a cramped room with a desk and faded curtains. I opened my banking app, navigated to the decoy account, $50,000 right there, and saved the password, leaving the phone unlocked on the desk. My smartwatch was ready to stream the camera feed. I stepped out, pretending to take a call, and headed to the bathroom. Heart pounding, I watched the feed on my watch. Less than a minute later, Mom slipped into the study, her movements quick. She grabbed my phone, her fingers flying as she logged in, and initiated a transfer. I held my breath. $50,000 to an account in Aunt Karen's name. She set the phone down, exact same spot, and slipped out. My watch buzzed. Transfer pending. The trap had snapped shut. I returned to the party, my face a mask of calm. Mom was back to hostess mode, refilling plates, but I caught her glancing at her phone, a smug little smile tugging at her lips. Aunt Karen was chattier than usual, asking if I was comfy. Mia kept shooting looks at both of them, her smirk barely hidden. It was like they were already spending my money. Uncle Tom caught my eye, his brow furrowed, but I gave him a small nod to stay quiet. At 4 p.m., the cake came out, and Mom led a toast. "To Emily," she said, her glass raised, "for all her hard work and our family's future." The irony burned, but I clinked my glass, meeting her eyes. "To family," I said, my voice steady, "and to everyone getting what they deserve." Mom's smile faltered, just for a second. By 5 p.m., my phone chimed, a real alert this time. The $50,000 transfer was complete. I glanced at it, letting a flicker of confusion cross my face before tucking my phone away. Mom noticed, her voice syrupy. "Everything okay, Em?" I nodded, smooth as silk. "Just work. I should head out soon, long day." Aunt Karen protested. "So early. We haven't even done presents." I smiled, already grabbing my purse. 30 hits different, you know. Thanks for everything." Mia sidled up as I headed for the door, her tone dripping with fake sympathy. "Big plans for the big 3-0?" she asked. "Just some financial housekeeping," I said, keeping it vague. She patted my arm. "Don't work too hard, Em. Life's not all about money." I bit back a laugh, kissed her cheek, and whispered, "We'll see, won't we?" Driving home, I called Lisa, David, and Sarah on a group call. "They took the bait," I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline. Lisa confirmed the transfer was documented down to the timestamp. David had the legal notices ready. Sarah had backed up the camera feed and access logs. I pulled into my apartment, the city lights blurring outside my window. Mom, Aunt Karen, and Mia thought they'd pulled off the perfect heist. They were probably toasting their victory right now. Tomorrow, I'd show them how wrong they were. I barely slept, replaying the plan in my head. By 9 a.m. Sunday, I was back at Mom's, dressed in a crisp blazer, my briefcase in hand. Their cars were in the driveway, Mia's red convertible, Aunt Karen's SUV, Mom's sedan. Perfect. All the players were here. I heard laughter and clinking glasses from inside, like they were still celebrating. I let myself in with my key, the familiar creak of the door drowned out by their voices. In the dining room, Mom, Aunt Karen, and Mia sat around a spread of bagels and mimosas, a bank statement half hidden under a napkin. Mia saw me first, her glass freezing midair. "Em, what are you doing here?" Mom spun around, her face paling. "Honey, we didn't expect you." I set my briefcase on the table, my voice calm but cold. "Clearly. Don't stop the party on my account. Looks like a blast." Mia stood, mumbling about an appointment. "Sit," I said, my tone like steel. She sank back down, eyes wide. Aunt Karen tried to laugh it off. "We're just having brunch, Em. Want a mimosa?" I ignored her, opening my briefcase and pulling out the joint account statement. "I got a notification yesterday," I said, locking eyes with Mom. A $50,000 transfer from our joint account. Know anything about that? Mom's face hardened. No hesitation. It's a joint account, Emily. It's legal. We needed it for family expenses. I raised an eyebrow. Like Mia's yacht wedding? Aunt Karen jumped in, defensive. You've got plenty, Em. Mia deserves a special day. I nodded, slow and deliberate, then pulled out a recorder and pressed play. Mom's voice filled the room, clear as day, from a call I'd recorded. Emily's inheritance is just sitting there. It could fix Mia's debts. Aunt Karen's voice followed. She'll share if we frame it as family unity. Their faces drained of color. I stopped the tape. That's just one recording, I said. I've got video of you in my apartment, snapping photos of my documents, and you, Mom, using my phone yesterday to make that transfer. Mia exploded. You spied on us? That's messed up, Em. I turned to her, unflinching. You stole from me. What's more messed up? Mom tried to recover, her voice shrill. We knew you were up to something, Emily. We figured you'd set a trap, but we needed the money. It's family. I leaned in, my voice low. You knew? And you still took it? She froze, realizing her slip. I pulled out an email printout, one Sarah had hacked from Mia's account. This says Mia planned it all, I said, tossing it on the table. You weren't just following her lead, Mia. You orchestrated it. Mia's jaw dropped, her eyes darting to Mom. That's not... You're twisting it. Uncle Tom, who'd been silent, spoke up, his voice heavy. I told you, Ellen, he said to Mom. I warned you years ago when you tried this with me. Emily's not your ATM. Mom's eyes flashed, but she had no comeback. I slid a legal demand across the table. Return the $50,000 plus 3% interest within 48 hours, I said. Or my lawyer files for financial exploitation. The evidence, recordings, videos, emails, guarantees a conviction. The room went silent, their smugness gone. Mia's hands shook. Aunt Karen whispered, You'd sue us? I met her gaze. You'd steal from me. I'm just setting boundaries. I closed my briefcase, my heart pounding, but my voice steady. You've got 2 days. Choose wisely. I walked out, leaving them staring at the papers. The question hung in the air. Would they pay up or face the consequences? The dust had settled, but the air still felt heavy. I'd caught Mom, Aunt Karen, and Mia in their own game, their smug faces crumbling when I laid out the evidence at their brunch table. I'd given them 48 hours to return the $50,000 they'd swiped from the decoy account, plus interest, or face a lawsuit that'd bury them. Now, it was about what came next. Taking back my life, setting boundaries, and honoring Grandma's legacy. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about freedom. By Monday evening, 47 hours after I'd walked out of Mom's house, my phone pinged with a bank alert. I was curled up on my couch in Logan Square, a cup of tea gone cold in my hands. I opened the app, half expecting another dodge. But there it was, $51,500 deposited back into the joint account, tagged with a curt note from Mom. As requested. No apology, no explanation, just cold compliance. I exhaled, the weight on my chest lifting just a fraction. They'd blinked. I logged in, transferred the money to a secure account, and closed the joint account for good, my fingers shaking as I clicked confirm. That chapter was over. I called my landlord that night and had the locks on my apartment changed by morning. No more emergency keys for Mom. The calls started almost immediately. Mom left voicemails, her voice a mix of panic and fake remorse. "Emily, honey, it was a misunderstanding. We'd never hurt you. Call me back, please." Mia texted, her messages a jumble of excuses. "I didn't mean for it to go this far, Em. I was stressed about the wedding. Let's talk?" I read them, my thumb hovering over the reply button, but Grandma's locket on my nightstand kept me grounded. "Don't let anyone take what's yours," she'd said. I blocked their numbers, my heart heavy but resolute. Family wasn't a free pass to betray me. I needed a fresh start. I'd been eyeing a condo in the West Loop, modern, secure, with a view of the Chicago skyline that felt like a promise. By the end of the week, I'd signed the lease, my savings untouched thanks to the trap. Moving day was a blur of boxes and bubble wrap, but when I stood in my new place, the hardwood floors gleaming under the afternoon sun, I felt something new. Safety. No one had a key but me. Rachel came by with a bottle of wine to celebrate, her grin wide. "You did it, Em," she said, clinking her glass against mine. "You took back your life." I smiled, but the victory was bittersweet. I'd lost my family to gain it. Honoring Grandma's dream was my next step. The $300,000 inheritance was safe in an irrevocable trust, thanks to David, my lawyer. I spent weeks working with him to set up the Grace Scholarship Fund, named for her, to help girls from the South Side chase their dreams. The first recipient was a 17-year-old named Aaliyah, a math whiz from Englewood with a shy smile and a knack for coding. I met her at a community center, her mom tearing up as I handed over the scholarship letter. "This is for college," I told her, my voice catching. "And it's because of my grandma, who believed in girls like you." Aaliyah hugged me, and for the first time in months, I felt like I was building something real. But the betrayal still lingered, a bruise I couldn't ignore. Rachel suggested a support group for victims of financial exploitation run out of a community center in Hyde Park. I went, hesitant, sitting in a circle of strangers who'd been burned by people they trusted, spouses, siblings, even kids. A woman named Carla shared how her brother drained her savings for a business that never existed. "I thought I was alone," she said, her voice soft. I nodded, my throat tight. "Me too." Hearing their stories, I realized my pain wasn't unique, but neither was my strength. I wasn't just a victim. I was a survivor. That group sparked an idea. I'd always been good with numbers, but this experience taught me something bigger. Women needed tools to protect their wealth. I started working on a side project, a financial literacy program for women, teaching them how to spot scams and secure their assets. I pitched it to my firm, and they greenlit a pilot workshop. The first session, held in a library downtown, drew a dozen women, single moms, young professionals, retirees. I shared my story, minus the gritty details, and saw their eyes light up with recognition. "You're not alone," I told them, echoing Carla. "And you're stronger than you think." The program grew, and by my 31st birthday, I was consulting part-time, turning my pain into purpose. Life wasn't all work. At the financial planning workshop where I'd met David the advisor, I'd also crossed paths with Daniel, a lawyer with a quick wit and a kind smile. We'd stayed in touch, grabbing coffee here and there, until one evening he asked me out for real. Over dinner at a cozy Italian spot in the West Loop, he listened as I opened up about my family, the betrayal, the trap. "You're a badass, you know that?" he said, his eyes warm. I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in years. Daniel wasn't just a partner. He was proof I could trust again, that relationships could be built on respect, not manipulation. A year later, I stood in my condo, the skyline glittering outside my window. The Grace Scholarship Fund had awarded 3 more scholarships, and my consulting work was gaining traction. I'd found a new family in Rachel, Daniel, and the women I'd met through the support group. Mom sent one last letter, a half-hearted apology I didn't answer. Mia's wedding photos popped up on social media, smaller than planned, no yacht in sight. I felt a pang but let it pass. They'd made their choices, and I'd made mine. I pulled Grandma's locket from my pocket, its silver warm from my touch. "Money buys freedom," she'd said, and I'd learned what that meant. Not just financial independence, but the courage to set boundaries, to choose who I let in. I wasn't defined by their betrayal, but by what I'd built despite it. My worth wasn't in my bank account. It was in the life I'd carved out, the girls I'd lifted up, the strength I'd found. If my story moved you, hit like, drop a comment with your own experience, share it with a friend, and subscribe for the next story on our channel. Have you ever had to set a hard boundary with family? What did it teach you?